Plenty of YouTubers waste your time, but I promise you, I won't. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys everything you need to know about flipping Solana NFTs, and you guys legitimately can make some good money if you follow what I tell you. As always, this is not financial advice, just some strategies I think you guys will want to implement. If you're new, drop a like, subscribe, let's get right into it. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is what makes Solana the move? Why is Solana so important, and how is it so easy to flip NFTs on Solana compared to something like Ethereum? Well, obviously, I think you guys may know the answer to that, but if you don't, there's a lot of factors here at play. The number one thing, of course, is the fact that Solana, it's cheap. You don't need to spend a lot of money on transaction fees. And on top of that, if you look at most of the recent projects on here, most of them are not all that expensive. They're usually within a few $100 range, which is definitely a price to pay, but definitely not as bad as a lot of Ethereum projects. Now, this comes with a caveat, of course, and that caveat is the fact that not as many people use Solana. It's simply not as popular as Ethereum, and that is something that we've been dealing with for a long time, and unfortunately, Solana's price has suffered as a result. Now, the reason why I mention that is because I feel that is about to change. With OpenSea supporting Solana NFTs very soon, I believe this will be a very different story coming in the next few months. And of course, if you check on their Twitter, they are constantly tweeting about how they are going to implement Solana NFTs onto their platform. Truly amazing stuff, and I do believe this will ultimately affect the price of Solana in the long run. Again, OpenSea is going to be absolutely huge, so it is my suggestion that we get in now before that happens. We get involved in Solana, we start picking up our liquidity, we start picking up some good projects, because hopefully in the future, we'll have an idea of what we can make a lot of money on. But before we go any further, guys, let's talk a little bit about my Patreon. I have worked tirelessly to make this the best NFT group out there. By joining my Patreon, you guys get literally an insane amount of content. You'll get a custom Discord role, direct access to me in a DM, full access to Matt's NFT dojo, crypto and altcoin trade signals, access to my exclusive NFT watch list, whitelist opportunities, priority access to my live streams, and so much more. To be honest with you guys, I think it's a steal for only $10 a month. And of course, if you guys would like to talk to me over voice in a voice call, you guys could always join the Emerald and above tier, which has that offered. Currently, there are hundreds of people joining the Patreon every month, and they absolutely love it. Link down below in the description. So strategy number one, I like to call blue chip and dip. Now, this is relating to a few projects that I will show you guys here on screen that essentially don't move all that much in terms of floor price. Stoned Ape Crew is a great example here. They've been sitting right around 75 for a long time. Pesky Penguins is another great example. They've been sitting at a floor between like 5 and 8 Solana over the past few months. I can go to DGods here, which has been improving in price, but for a long time was kind of consolidating around the 80-ish range, 80, 85 floor. There are a lot of projects out there that do this. I could look at Bohemia, which for the past month or so has been sitting at a floor of between 10 and 13. So there are a lot of projects that do this, and this is probably the least risky, yet probably least profitable option on the list here. But essentially, what we are trying to do here is to monitor the floors of projects like this day by day and list it for 1 or 2 Solana higher than whenever we pick it up for. So Pesky Penguins may probably be the best example, as the floor literally has not moved in a good few months. Now, they've been having a good 24 hours, but in theory, if I would have bought this project anytime over the past 3 months, I could have listed it for 7 had I bought it at 6, and at some point over the past few months, it likely would have sold. Again, that's kind of a risk. You are, in a sense, putting yourself out there to lose some of your initial liquidity, but if you're trying to not get burned, and I'm talking burned, which a lot of people have been on NFTs, this is probably one of the best things you could do. I don't advise doing this for someone that is more experienced or has been doing this for a long time, as you probably won't see as much of an upside in it. But if you want to find a good project, something that is legitimately solid and will likely stick around here in the future, you could look for some kind of blue chip projects out there. And if you want to just kind of make a little bit on your money, you could easily go and list it for 1, 2, or 3 Solana more than you bought it for. Again, this is not going to be a strategy that makes you rich, but if you want to get your feet wet and not buy a garbage project, I definitely think this might be a solid option. Strategy number 2 is to chase whitelists and mints. It can be done. There is still money in this. It's simply not as easy as it was a little bit ago, because if you went back a few months, the whitelist meta was basically taking over Solana. If you got whitelisted for a project that had some kind of staking feature, you were golden. The problem is a lot of those projects didn't last. Yet here is an example of one that has lasted. This is Yaku Corp Capsule X, and essentially what this is access to the Yakuverse apartment, one of the most popular metaverse Solana projects out there right now. But the thing is, I actually could have minted one of these for a very cheap price. I got a whitelist token sent to my wallet for holding the Yaku bike. So I held on to one of the dirt bikes that they basically had that I purchased, and it gave me access to mint this. So I could have minted this and made like $700. The problem is I am too freaking lazy to check my wallet, and I did not realize that I got airdropped this. But if you didn't make that mistake like me, you would have been able to mint this and made a pretty much guaranteed profit. So definitely do look out for whitelist opportunities out there in some way. And again, a lot of projects will give you whitelist tokens or give you some kind of information either in their Discord or their DAO to gain access to future whitelists. So this is something that I can't do for you. This is something you have to do your own due diligence for. But again, there are a lot of ways to gain access to whitelists out there, and something that I think is very underrated. Be a content creator, guys. Be a YouTuber, be a TikToker, be a Twitter user. You'll be surprised how many companies and how many NFTs may reach out to you over time, even if you don't have an overly large audience. Remember, there will be a lot of people out there who do simply want to grow their project or do want promotion for their project or whatnot. So you could say, hey, maybe you can give me a whitelist, and as, you know, in exchange, I will tweet you out. A lot of different things you could do. Again, you definitely want to be choosy with which projects you accept, but it is possible. I have seen it done before, and again, the more you grow your brand, probably the better off you will be in terms of gaining whitelist access and finding connections with projects that are actually going to be very successful. Moving on to strategy number 3, let's talk about who knows who. Now, this is probably one of the most kind of simple strategies you could probably implement. You don't need to do a whole lot of research for something like this, but again, you will need to be on Twitter/Discord a lot. But essentially, what you can do is try to find projects that are partnering with other projects or making some kind of move in the future that you think will have an impact on the floor price. So a great example here is Desolate's Metaverse. I've held on to one of these for a long time. It's been a few months since I've held on to a Desolate, but very recently they partnered with DeGods, and of course that is a massive project out there. There is some tweeting, of course, how DeGods are building SOL Olympus inside of Desolates, and of course Frank from DeGods tweets out about this, how great they are, yada yada. So it definitely does look as if this partnership has been influential on their floor price, and sure enough, I went and I bought one, and right now it's basically doubled. The floor price here is at 6.5, so I've made a few $100s in profit by doing this, and it didn't really take a whole lot. Again, this is probably very low in terms of labor intensive. You don't need to do a whole lot of research, but again, definitely spending your time doing your due diligence on Twitter or Discord. Again, if you were in my Patreon community, I might let you know about something like this, or someone in my Discord, my Patreon only Discord, may let you know something about this. But honestly, guys, even just being on Twitter, following the right people, I'm always seeing tweets every day, whether it's a tweet about the price of Solana, Ethereum, a certain NFT someone bought, whatnot. There is always something going on, and again, if you just do your due diligence on social media like this, I truly think you can make some great gains. Now that we have our strategies, let's talk a little bit about how to implement them. And one of the ways I like to is to use solsniper.xyz. This is not sponsored, but a lot of people have asked me what software I use to track floor prices. This is completely free. Again, I've never spoken to this team before, not sponsored at all, but I do like this software here. And essentially what this is you can pick the floor of any project you want. Let's look at DeGods here, and it will show you for a long time what the floor has looked like. So you can see basically the amount listed, the floor, so obviously with DeGods here, you can see the amount that is listed here is headed downwards, which is excellent. And of course, the overall floor price here is headed up. So this definitely does look bullish. I can look at another project, let's say Best Buds here. You guys can see the amount listed here obviously was going down, and that overall led to a price pump. So very simple to kind of read these graphs. Again, you want to obviously see the listings go down and the floor go up. And again, I definitely do think that tracking this using this as a supplement as well, not being your only method of research, but using this to track some projects can be very helpful. But before we close out the video, let's get into some things I think you guys really should keep in mind, some warning signs and or some opportunities you guys could make some extra money. So first off is some passive income. Here's an example of a project I like for passive income. It doesn't have to be this, it could be anything you like, but Sea Shanties is a staking project. So there are a lot of NFTs that offer staking as a reward. Obviously, DeGods is another project that does offer staking as a reward. You could look at any of these projects, any of these blue chips, you will find that some of these do offer staking in some way, shape, or form. So again, you can make $30 a day by holding on to a DeGod, or you could stake something like Sea Shanties shanties, which is a little bit more affordable, and you could also make some money with this as well. So this is an option here. They have a liquidity pool, and since holding my sea shanty, made a few $100s, and I've held it for like a month or two, so I definitely can't complain about that. It's not a fortune of money or anything, but it's definitely not bad. If you were looking to try to maximize the amount of NFT exposure you could get while minimizing your amount of risk, ideally you would buy a project like say sea shanties or DeGods, or something that you can stake, earn some passive income from that. I hear a lot of people talking to me about Solana Puppy Pound. I hear that one as well being mentioned. There are tons of projects out there, and again, you could look, if you wanted to, on Magic Eden, you could look and find some staking projects. They do actually feature a bunch of different options out here. So if you wanted to stake, you could look through some of these or some other staking options out there and try to make some passive income. And of course, you could always use that passive income to invest in another staking project. You see how this can be pretty lucrative. Staking is not my main model simply because I don't enjoy it as much. I don't think it's as fun. It's a little bit more passive. I mean, passive income, right? But again, if you're looking to be a little bit less active in the NFT industry and try to just make some money without having to really think as much, I do think the staking option can be great. And of course, if you're looking to not spend a ridiculous amount of liquidity on NFTs, staking may give you that liquidity you might want. Speaking of liquidity, that is another huge thing. So liquidity, of course, being kind of the heart and soul behind NFTs in general. Buy Ethereum when it's down. Buy Solana when it's down. It's really that simple. And again, recently the prices have been very, very volatile over the past few weeks here with obviously all that is going on in the world. But definitely do keep a very sharp eye on things like this. Again, if you wanted to, you would want to dollar cost average in as cheap as possible. So you would want to get Ethereum as low as possible, and every red day, every -5% day, if you just bought in on all those days, you would probably be all right. And again, that's probably the safest strategy you could go with. But looking at something like Solana, if over the past 3 months you bought in on every -5% or -10% day, you would have bought Solana at $82, could have bought it at $90 here, could have bought it at 84 and 82. So if you just looked out for those little dips, those little spikes downward, those little slopes that end up sending us downward, you could have very well gotten yourself a fat stack of Solana at around $80, $90. So definitely would have been worth doing overall if you were trying to dollar cost average in. And this liquidity, of course, will help you in buying NFTs in the future. And the final thing, of course, folks, that comes to mind more than anything is recapping losses. Let's talk a little bit about the suites here. This is an example that I used to help fund a DeGod. So I bought one of these suites at a floor of around 10. I said this project will probably do well in the future, and I still believe it will. It's a great project, but I bought it around 10. Then I realized that DeGods were having a pump. I realized they were performing very well, and I said, you know what? I cannot miss out on this opportunity to actually go ahead and purchase a DeGod. So I said, you know what? I'm going to sell my suite at a floor of 9. One Solana lost around $100 on that one. I accepted that loss because I realized that the liquidity, the opportunity at making profit on my DeGod was far more important than buying my suites. And of course, over time, that proved to be right. I have made a lot more by buying my DeGod and letting that floor price go up than simply sitting and holding on to my suites, afraid of losing $100 and selling at a price slightly below floor. So sometimes if you have a hunch or an intuition about a project and it doesn't go where you want it to go, or you need that liquidity to put it into something else that you have a better bet about, definitely do it. Don't beat up on yourself. It can be done. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll give you another example here, of course, looking at something like Best Buds. I bought one of these for around 10. I thought they were going to rocket back up to 20. They ended up falling down to a floor of around 9. Sold it again. Lost around $100. It's okay, because ultimately with something like that, I realize that the situation I am in kind of forces me to try to use that liquidity for some other project. And again, I used that Best Bud liquidity to put it into a DeGod, and that was ultimately worth it. So again, trying to cut your losses when you need that liquidity to invest in other projects can be very important in the flipping world. So that being said, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed. I tried to make this as concise and as helpful as possible. If you guys did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe. Again, definitely check out the Patreon down below in the description. My name is Matt. See you guys on the next one. Peace.